sower is somebody who is constantly, matter of fact, they not only are investing, but they have seeds and they're constantly sowing seeds. There is a way for all of us to experience a harvest in every season of our life if you would be willing to be a sower. Don't do good. Matter of fact, I used to run track, and at the beginning, coach would he would blow the whistle, and he said, "Okay, go. You got 2 miles to go." He blow the whistle, a ridiculous distance though. It was a ridiculous distance. But he said, "You got 2 miles to go," and then he would time. And it's funny, everybody would start off good, because coach was right there. Coach was looking at you. Everybody would start off real good. It was when you got around them trees. It's when you got around the trees and you kind of look back. Some people, you kind of look back and you realize coach was still, he was back there, and you kind of got around them trees, and after a while you see some people walking. One of the things that's plaguing the church is we're lazy. Some of y'all got a sink full of dishes right now that you gotta go home and go take care of that. Some of us, we just lazy. And when we feel like we're in a kind of good place, you started off so good when you first got baptized. You remember you got your brand new Bible? Remember you was excited? You had your brand new Bible. You carried it wherever you went. You was constantly reading. You was asking people about the Bible. You was asking people about certain scriptures. You was all in. Hey, what weighed you down? Where did your excitement go? Remember you was excited to come to worship. You were enthralled in the idea that, hey, listen, I'm a Christian now. Matter of fact, you would call people and tell them, hey, I'm a Christian now. It doesn't matter what age you got baptized. When you got baptized, didn't you feel like a brand new person? What happened? You was running so fast. And then all of a sudden, you seem like you just got real comfortable. You got laid back. Seemed like you got around them trees. And you know what would happen? We would be running. Coach would jump in that truck. Coach would jump in that truck, and we didn't see him coming. And he cut through a way, and he cut us on that backside. Now, I was always faithful, and I always ran. I was always faithful. So that wasn't me. I was running. Coach would pull around that corner, and he would just look. And some of them was walking, and they couldn't do anything. Some of them he caught cutting through the school. he caught someone cutting through the school because he just knew it was some of them. It didn't matter how much you preached to them, they were not going to do right. Don't you know some people like that in your life? Don't matter how many scriptures you send them, text messages. It doesn't matter how long you stay on the phone, how much you try to encourage, how much you try to be an example. Isn't it funny that just some people, they just won't do right? And it's funny because that's kind of a reflection of Jesus' story. Not a long sermon. Here's the end of Jesus' story. I've mentioned 4 types that you have to be aware of. There are the birds. Can't get rid of the birds. The birds are there. Number 2, there's stony ground. There's no nutrients, there's no water, there's no depth, and when the sun comes, not if, when the sun comes, it will wither away, it will burn up. Number 3, there are thorns and thistles. There are things that's going to choke and take the life out of you, and you won't be able to do the things that you initially thought you would do. But number 4, there is good ground. And the good ground produces 100-fold, produces much fruit. That's the good ground. And that's the end of Jesus' story. Appreciate y'all coming for story time. Jesus is on the boat, so appreciate y'all coming. Thank y'all so much. Let us together stand. We'll sing a verse of a song. Is there any prayer requests? He wraps it up. That's the end. He's done preaching. The Bible says here, in verse 9, he ends his sermon saying, those who have ears, let them what? Let me make this point. One of the things that we really got to stop doing, we got to stop trying to force people to listen. You know what Jesus says? If you want to hear me, then hear me. But if you don't want to hear me, And God bless you on your journey. Sometimes we try to get in people's faces and say, you know, you're going to listen to me today. Sisters, do you know screaming at a man don't help his ears? Does anybody know that? When you scream at a man and you fuss at a man all day long, that doesn't help his audio system. It doesn't improve just because you, what does Jesus say? Those who are here, what? And sometimes we try to make people. Sometimes there are some children, you can scream at them all day long, and they have the supernatural ability to zoom out and not hear a word you say. Because you know what I realized about listening and hearing? It's voluntary. And some people, like your company, they just don't want your information. Some people like your sympathy, they don't want your instruction. Some people like engaging with you, but they don't want you to fix them. Some people like to be broken. They just didn't tell you that. And you look at their broken state and say, oh, you need some help. And they never asked you for help. And then they turn around and tell you, I didn't tell you to do all that. I've been like this since '83. I like this situation. I like this thing. And you don't even realize. So Jesus' ministry had a piece to it. If you want to hear me, I'm going to give you some advice. If you want to hear me, this will bless your life. But if you don't want to hear, then you don't have to hear. But don't come back crying. Don't come back and say, hey, we need to talk. No, we don't. We talked in. We talked over there. We talked over there. We don't need to talk over here. Because you made choices. So the apostles heard the message and they didn't understand the message. Say, Jesus, before you go, hold on, could you break this down? Because this don't make any sense. You talking about birds, and you talking about stony, and you talking about thorns and thistles, and you talking about good ground. Could you break that down? Have you ever left worship service and you wanted to go up to the preacher? I mean, not me, not me, not me. But have you ever gone? So you were somewhere else. You was visiting. And you wanted to go and say, could you break that down? Because nothing you said this morning, nothing you said this morning made any sense. The reason why I preach the way that I preached is because I realized they really don't want to receive what I'm saying. So what I'm doing is I'm putting it on record that I told you. You ever just say, listen, I'm just going to tell you. You ain't got to listen. But don't ever say nobody ever told you. Right. He said, listen, I'm preaching this. I'm putting it on record, but they don't have it. And so because they don't have it, I'm not giving it to them. I'm not breaking it down for them because I realize for some of us, you're not in the season to hear the truth. Have anybody ever tried to tell you the truth, but you wasn't in the season to listen? And you came back 27 years later, you were right. You were right, I was wrong. It took you, sometimes people have to go through storms just to be able to hear the truth. Sometimes God has to break their heart in order for them to be saved. You can bring the whole world at their doorstep and saying, wake up. And they still won't hear you because you have to be in the posture to listen. Yeah. Your heart has to be open to hear the truth. Have you ever realized, you know what, I'm not in a good place? Have you ever said that to yourself? I've said it to myself. Have you ever said it to yourself and you looked around? I've never said this before. This had to be 2009, 2010. I remember I called my father on the phone. It was a good service. Everything was going well. But I realized something was wrong. I remember calling my father. I said, you know what? I'm not in a good place. Have you ever realized you're not in a good place? And you get messages and God is speaking to you, but you're not in a position to hear him. Have you ever got to a better place and you look back and you realize God was speaking to you 1,000 times from 100 different ways? Yeah. And you just had to chalk it up and say, it was me? Because God was speaking to me? But for some reason, I wasn't ready to listen, and I realized you get angry with God because you say, well, God, why did you let me? He says, you don't understand me. If you want to hear me, you can hear me, but if you don't, God bless you on your journey. Yeah. But God, you see I'm about to walk off a cliff, but I'm not here. Love doesn't force. Love doesn't abuse. Love doesn't make. Love doesn't drag. So because God is what? He'll never force you. He'll never beat you to be obedient. He'll never grab you and throw you in the church. You gotta come on your own. The door is open. He's calling you. Lord, I want to be saved. Yes, okay, come. But you're going to have to come. I'm not finna go out there and grab you by the neck and drag you to the Lord. Because love don't do that. Love don't do that. So it wasn't even a long message. He said what he needed to say and he left. Why? He says, because I already know I can preach all day long. It won't make a difference. The people are not ready to listen. They're not ready to change. And when a person is not ready to change, you need to stop talking. Because you're going to hurt your own self. You can call the next day, and you can call the next day, and you can say this, and you can write a whole speech, and you can write a dissertation, and you can bring the ensemble over, and you can't praise them, you can't sing them to righteousness, because they're not ready. You can come in and bring them before the best preachers in the brotherhood. You can give them all the gospel songs, and you can give them all the stuff in the world. You can expose them to all the right people, and they'll walk past opportunities because they're not ready. They're not ready. He says, I know these people. They get really excited, they get the word, they get saved and baptized, and all of a sudden trouble comes. And I don't know why we think that trouble don't hit the church. Matter of fact, if the devil gonna hit any place first, he gonna hit here first. He gonna stir up some mess, cause some trouble, do a little gossiping. You know, y'all know the ingredients. It was a little gossip, a little hating, a little deception, a few looks and glances, and a little backstabbing. He'll hit this place first. When trouble come, when just a little trouble come, because they have no root, and because they were loyal to the church and not Jesus. They'll leave the church because the church hurt them, and Jesus says, what about me? Why are you leaving me? Never let people run you away from Christ. These people will pass away, and 100 years from now, it'll be different people sitting in these seats. It'll be another preacher up here. We'll all be gone. But don't let temporary people keep you from an eternal God. I don't care what they say. I don't care what they do. I don't care what's going on behind you or what this happened or that happened. It doesn't matter, because God is more important than the person you're sitting next to. Never let anybody keep you away from God.